Hey, everyone! So today's video is about Abraham and Isaac. It's also known as the sacrifice test. And it's actually one of my favorite childhood stories that I grew up with. But anyways, let's see if you guys know this story. First question, what was Abraham's son's name? Now some of you might be thinking Jacob. That's actually incorrect. The correct answer is Isaac. Isaac was Abraham's only son with his wife Sarah. They had him when they were very old, like 100 plus. Next question, where are they going? Well, in the story, God told Abraham to go to the land of Moriah. And it was there where God would provide the sacrifice. So it's not really a place per se, but Abraham already knew where he was going because God had told him. Question number 3, why did God want Abraham to sacrifice his son? Well, this is a very good question. This is actually where things get kind of confusing. You see, Abraham didn't really have a relationship with God at first. He actually worshipped other gods. It wasn't until after he left his home and traveled to Canaan that he started worshipping the one true God. However, before all that happened, God appeared to Abraham and made a promise to him. He said that he would make him into a great nation and that all the families of the earth will be blessed through him. So basically, God promised Abraham that he would have many descendants, many descendants. And just a few chapters later, we find out that Abraham and Sarah conceived a son when they were very old. So obviously, God was keeping his promise. But then later on, God tells Abraham to sacrifice his only son, Isaac. And this is where things get a little confusing because isn't God supposed to be keeping his promise to Abraham? How could he ask Abraham to do something that goes against what he had promised him? Well, the thing to remember here is that Abraham didn't have faith in God yet. He was still kind of scared of what other gods might think. And I think that's why God wanted to test him. If Abraham was willing to sacrifice his son, then that meant that he truly believed God would keep his promise. So even though God told Abraham to kill his son, he never intended for him to actually do it. Question number 4, what did Abraham do after he heard God's instructions? Well, Abraham got up early the next morning, told his servants where he was going and why, and then set out for the land of Moriah with his 2 sons, Ishmael and Isaac. Now, just a side note, Ishmael was Abraham's older son that he had with Hagar, but Isaac was his younger son that he had with Sarah. Now, in the story, it says that Abraham chose Isaac, his son whom he loved, to be the one to offer up. And right away, Ishmael noticed that his father was going to sacrifice his younger brother. And while they were walking to Moriah, Ishmael began to complain and asked, "Why is it that you're going to sacrifice your son, Isaac?" And Abraham replied, "Because God told me to." After hearing this, Ishmael asked another question. He said, "You have 2 sons, so why did God tell you to sacrifice Isaac and not me?" And to that, Abraham simply replied, "It was God's own will." So afterwards, the 2 continued on until they finally reached the place where the sacrifice was going to take place. Now, question number 5, how did the story end? Well, when they arrived at Moriah, Abraham told his servants to stay there with the donkey while he and Isaac walked a little further ahead. And once they were far enough away from everyone else, Abraham then said to Isaac, "My son, God has asked me to sacrifice you, so please let me do it quickly." To this, Isaac replied, "Okay, Father, I'm ready to be sacrificed." And so Abraham thought to himself, "Wow, Isaac is such a good kid. He's willing to die for me." And he felt bad because he didn't want his son to die. So as Abraham went to sacrifice Isaac, an angel stopped him. And the angel said, "Don't hurt the boy. You don't really have to sacrifice him because God sees how willing he is to be sacrificed. He knows his heart." And so Abraham looked around and found a ram caught in a bush. He then went over to it, sacrificed the ram instead, and called his son over to finish the sacrifice. And then afterwards, Abraham and Isaac returned home. And that's the story of Abraham and Isaac, also known as the sacrifice test. Now, the reason why this is one of my favorite childhood stories is because when I was a kid, I always wondered how much Abraham loved Isaac. I mean, he was willing to sacrifice his only son. So I wonder how much he loved him, right? But then as I read the story more times, I noticed that Abraham was very calm throughout the whole ordeal. He didn't seem sad or depressed. He didn't cry or shed a single tear. He just packed up some food, grabbed his son, and then went to Moriah like it was just another Tuesday. And this confused me even more. Like, how could he be so calm? I mean, that's his only son. And yes, God promised him more children, but who knows how long it might take, right? Might take years. And now he has a son, Isaac, and he's about to lose him forever. But then I realized that Abraham's actions actually showed us how much he loved his son. He didn't show any sadness or despair because he trusted that God would keep his promise. He believed that even if he lost Isaac, God would still bless him with more children. And that's exactly what happened. Isaac grew up and he had his own family. Then later on, Abraham had another son, a son that he didn't think he would ever have, and that son's name was Jacob. And this proved God's promise to Abraham. But anyways, that's what I think about this story. I believe that Abraham showed us that it's okay to feel sad and depressed and even cry sometimes. It's okay to show our emotions. Men shouldn't just hide their feelings and pretend that nothing happened. In fact, showing our emotions is a sign of strength, not weakness. But anyways, that's the end of this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. And as usual, if you enjoyed this video, then make sure to hit that subscribe button.